challenge marketing, often I get asked, what is a challenge? Why would it work for my business? Why wouldn't it? And so I guess I'm just looking at challenge marketing is really, it's about helping solve a problem for your audience.
Welcome back to the Teach Traffic podcast with myself, Ilana Wexler. This is a show where we reveal the best tips, tricks, and tactics to increasing your website traffic and then converting that traffic into leads and sales. We also discuss what's working right now in the ever-changing world of web marketing so you can apply it to your business. Welcome back to another episode of Teach Traffic. I am your host, Ilana Wexler. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a little while, you might notice that it has a new name. Yes, this podcast did used to be called Talking Web Marketing, but I have changed the name to be Teach Traffic. And that's because we are building out a really awesome website called teachtraffic.com, which will have all the podcast episodes, show notes, handful PDF guides, as well as our training, membership, everything in the one place. So today's episode will be live on teachtraffic.com, and I've got a really interesting episode today. Today I'm talking to a girl that I've known for a little while. Her name is Angela Henderson, and Angela is a really interesting person, and we talk about some interesting things on today's episode. Bit of a background about Angela. She was the founder of an online store called Finley and Me, where it was like an e-commerce store which she built from the ground up, and she learned everything from branding and PR and sales funnels and all that kind of stuff, and then has now branched out to be a business consultant and helps, I think, specifically women business owners or female business owners. And on today's episode, we talk all about challenge marketing. And I'm a big fan of running a challenge. If you don't know what a challenge is, well, then you've got lots of interesting information to listen to on today's episode. I ran a challenge a few months ago called my 7-day retargeting challenge, where in 7 days I teach people how to build a retargeting campaign on both Facebook and on Google, considering it still astounds me that so many people only run their retargeting campaigns on one ad platform. So I ran a retargeting 7-day challenge, which was really, really successful. You can check it out. The old link is greenarrowdigital.com/retargeting-challenge. I will also make that available on teachtraffic.com. But on this episode, Angela and I talk all about challenge marketing. Why you should run a challenge in your business, what's the best way to structure them, should they be a one-off event or should you make them evergreen, all the questions that you possibly have when it comes to running a challenge and incorporating a challenge into your business as a form of lead generation. We talk all about it in today's episode. So let's get stuck right in. So welcome to today's episode of Teach Traffic. Today I have a wonderful guest called Angela Henderson. Thank you for coming on today's episode.
Thanks for having me today.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And before we hit record, and you and I have been sort of talking a little bit and, a lot actually. And I've definitely realized that we could have gone lots of different ways with today's episode, but we have settled on a topic which I really do love talking about because it's something I've done personally, and I know you have done a lot. And so what we're going to be talking about is how to increase sales and get more clients through challenge marketing. So you are definitely somebody who knows a lot about this, more than me. So I'm excited to talk to you about that today. So thanks for coming on. Before we do get stuck into the content of today's episode and the nitty gritty of the types of challenges that you can run and why you'd want to do one and how to do a challenge, do you want to give our listeners a quick sort of 5 seconds about who you are and what you do?
Yes, sure. I would love to do that. So, my name is obviously, as Alana said, Angela Henderson. I am currently a business consultant, specifically working with women in business to help move them really from that overwhelm and stuckness. And so often, women in business working in their business to helping shift them to working and gaining that clarity and strategy they need to grow that 4, 5, 6 figure and beyond businesses. And so I do that via one-to-one consulting. I do that via my group coaching program. I do that through my, women in business retreat, my podcast, etc. But that's really only been the last 2 and a bit years that I've been doing the consulting gig. Before that, I opened up an e-commerce business almost 10 years ago called Finley and Me. And that business was ultimately around creating childhood memories through play, love, and travel. We had at one stage 1,400 different products we were selling again from an e-commerce platform. And I also was looking at other ways to monetize that business. And so I did that by opening up my own blog. I became one of Australia's leading parenting bloggers, working with companies like Netflix, P&O Cruises, and a variety of other, international and national brands. And it was through that platform that people started wanting to pick my brain. And I started taking on, coffee dates with people. And from there, Angela Henderson Consulting, kind of sprouted and is where we're at today.
Interesting. I'm always so fascinated in people's journeys, and my journey has definitely also taken lots of twists and turns along the way, so I can relate to starting one thing and then ending up in a completely different place. But I'm sure, like me, you never would have dreamt you'd end up where you are now had you not started back where you had originally started with your e-commerce store. It's funny because some people then end up at an e-commerce store when that's where you started. It's funny, isn't it?
100%. And I think it's also about people giving themselves permission to pivot if necessary. I think, I always had this thing that, oh, I will have this baby business forever, or, oh, I will sell it. And then, as my kids got older and it was harder to kind of find toys, and I really wanted to keep our online store between newborn and say 6, 7 years of age. And as my kids started to hit that 6, 7, 8 8-year-old landmark, it was kind of like, oh, I'm kind of losing my passion. I'm kind of losing my joy. It doesn't bring me as much happiness as it did. And then luckily, like I said, I think the universe kind of works its own magic. Sometimes people, like I said, start asked to pick my brain, and and then I pivoted. So it was one of those things that, again, something I never thought I would do, and then I pivoted, and that's okay. So always remember that it's okay to give yourself permission to pivot if necessary.
Definitely. Okay, I don't want to digress from today's topic. So let's talk about challenge marketing. So for those of our listeners who don't know what challenge marketing is, do you want to kind of give us a brief overview and an intro of what exactly it is?
Right, sure, yeah, I'd love to. So challenge marketing, often I get asked, what is a challenge? Why would it work for my business? Why wouldn't it? And so I guess I'm just looking at challenge marketing it's about helping solve a problem for your audience. And that challenge can run for a 3-day challenge, a 5-day challenge, a 7-day challenge, 10-day, 14, 30-day challenge, doesn't matter. But ultimately, it's through that challenge that you're ultimately going to be able to solve one of your ideal clients' pain points. It's also through that challenge that you get a wonderful opportunity to guide them, inspire them, motivate them. And also, ultimately, a challenge allows you to move that ideal client closer to becoming a customer of yours. So yeah, so that's ultimately, what a challenge, is all about and how it works.
Interesting. So I personally have done a challenge, and some of our listeners might have done my challenge. I did a 7-day retargeting challenge, actually. So I do know quite a bit about this topic, and it sort of like dawned on me one day where I was thinking about who my ideal customer is. And I was like, well, if I can teach them how to do a retargeting campaign, then they're going to experience the wonders of pay-per-click advertising, and therefore want to do more of it. And so that's the sort of the entry point for somebody is often, to do a retargeting campaign in my line of work. So I think the topic and the topic selection is key in order to a successful challenge. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. Again, I think if you don't have a clear topic that has a clear attached outcome to that, I think most businesses will struggle to have a successful challenge. So, for example, some of my pain points from my clients with my first business was about, even though it is an e-commerce platform, it was important to realize that those people who were buying for me were also moms. And moms, not all moms, but a lot of moms are juggling many hats and very busy. family, and there's at times they can feel a disconnect from their children. And so I did a 30 days, 30 ways on how to connect with your child, which was just literally every day they received an email. I did a quick video into my Facebook community. This is like, here's the 5-minute thing that you can do with your kids. And the amount of transformation that came from those moms and how grateful they were and, thankful they were for that was amazing. But for those that might be in the business, realm, such as the one that you did with your 7-day challenge, is you can do, my one was a 5-day challenge on how to discover how to increase sales and get more clients through challenge marketing. So I actually taught people how to set up their entire challenge. Another friend of mine, Zach Spuckler, does the free day live training. So build, again, he too is all about challenge marketing. So he builds a 5-day challenge to flip into a 5-figure launch. A friend of mine, Stevie Dillon, she had one called The Complete Roadmap to Social Media Success. Another friend of mine from years ago, Jutta Seldner, did one around the 3-day green smoothie challenge. So there's a variety of different ones that you can do. But again, making sure that you hit a pain point that your ideal client has and help to them transform during that period of a challenge.
Yeah, and I think that's key, what you last just said, help them transform. I think the best success with challenges is if you deliver some kind of end result, or as you say, transform. Another type of challenge that I've done for a client of mine was a 21-day plant-based eating challenge. So there are 1,000,001 ways to slice and dice these challenges. One question I did have is this whole concept of, do you do a free or a paid challenge? What are your thoughts on that?
Again, I think first of all, it depends on where your ideal client is sitting within your funnel. So for example, if they are a cold client, they know nothing about you or your services, I personally would probably be going down the track of making it unpaid because, the reason why, again, I guess if we go back a little bit, Alana, about why I believe a challenge works is that you get opportunity to really bring new people into your business who may not know about you. They may know about you, but a lot of times it's that cold traffic. It allows you to really build on that H to H, human to human marketing and that relationship building. It helps to build trust, credibility, and authority. Ultimately, it helps to build your email list, and it also increases your visibility, reach, and sales. But to go back to that question that you have there should it be paid or unpaid? Again, a cold audience, they know nothing about you. So would you rather do an unpaid challenge and get them in so they can start building that trust with you, that credibility with you, get to know you, hear you, see you, all of that, and potentially warm them enough to convert them at the end of that challenge? Or is your main objective, do you know what I mean, to make money? I don't know. So I guess there's a few questions that you have to ask is, what is your end goal by having it free? And what is your end goal by having it paid? Because if they don't know you and they're not warm or even hot and they've bought from you before, I would say that it would probably be a much harder slog to try to get them paying for a challenge.
It's interesting. I was once talking to a client of mine. They had done a lot of challenges, and they had done challenges in the sort of the health space. Like I think it was like a 30-day sort of 6 abs, some kind of challenge, something like that. And they ran a massive challenge. They used to get like 15,000 people sign up to their, or maybe it was a 6-week challenge. I don't remember the specifics, but something along those lines. And they ran a free challenge, and it was hugely popular. As I said, 15,000 people on their email list, developed the relationship, and they were selling supplements off sort of the back end of that challenge, or throughout the challenge, right? And they obviously, not everyone would sign up for their supplements, but some people did, etc. And it was reasonably successful. And then they thought, let's just try and do a paid challenge, and let's see as the end result, like the different type of customers we have. So they charged a pretty low price for it. I think it was under $100 for their challenge. Obviously got significantly less people into their challenge, like maybe a third, so about 5,000 people, but the quality of those people that they did get was significantly higher, and those were actually much better potential customers for their supplements. So it's interesting. I guess it's the trade-off between quality versus quantity and different metrics,
And also, I think it's also about your offer, right? So like if you've got a higher offer that's like, a group coaching program or one-to-one coaching or, I don't know, a Facebook ads, year-long course or something like that where, you're talking like $1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever, you're going to need a longer runway, right? And so again, it's that free challenge gives you that ability to create that runway, them getting to know you, like, and trust you, so that eventually when you do offer that higher ticket item, they've had a longer runway to get to know you. Whereas if you've got a smaller item that, let's just say the supplements were $50, $60, $70, the risk is lower, but the gain is higher. So I think, again, you've got to look at what is the end result? What are you offering at the end if you're offering any? Is it a low ticket item or a high ticket item? Do you want to pre-qualify the leads and make them better quality? Or are you just, your main goal is like I said, to get as many people in to help with like your brand awareness, your voice profiling, like all of that. So I think you really have to go back to what is it that you want to, do you know what I mean, accomplish by running a paid or unpaid challenge.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so for our listeners who are thinking, yeah, this could be really good for my business, what are some of the initial steps that if like you decide, yes, I want to run some kind of challenge? So you mentioned that you had a free Facebook group. So was the sequence of events that someone registers for the free challenge, I'm assuming, and then they're put into your free Facebook group? Is that kind of how it works?
Right. So we did both organic traffic, like organic marketing, and then we did paid marketing. And either way, they would go to a registration page and then they would go into a thank you page. And on that thank you page, we would be prompting them to join the Facebook community. So that right off the bat, they're starting to get more touch points with me. They're starting to build those relationships with the other members within the community. And then, so that was the initial phases. And then with the actual running of the 5-day challenge is we send one daily email out, which also has the link to download the workbook. And the next thing we do is that I do a live video inside of that Facebook group so that they can hear me teach whatever I'm teaching for that particular day, walk them through the workbook, and answer any questions that they have. So that's kind of what that looks like. And then after the particular challenge is then I open up cart for whatever I'm offering. So in that instance, I was offering my year-long group coaching program, which is called Profit Pillars with Angela Henderson. And then they go into, the funnel post that with cart opening for 7 days and then closing on that, end of the 7th day.
Okay. So did your challenge have a set start date that everyone was starting at the same time?
That's correct. Yep. So we had a set start date. I didn't allow other people to join in when the challenge was live. I know some people will do that. But for me, I was creating more like, again, then that scarcity factor that this is it. You need to join by this day. It's a private Facebook community. This is what we're doing. Whereas I have heard other people, they will run their challenge on their Facebook page versus having a Facebook group. But for me, it's, again, I like to keep things intimate because, again, I'm really big about that human to human marketing, that connectiveness with people. And so I would much rather have an intimate and quality group than trying to do it, vast and big. Again, there's pros and cons to each of those. If you run it off your Facebook page, then you can add some Facebook ads to that later on. Whereas if you're only running it in your Facebook group, you can't run ads to that group. Then it's not really a scarcity model. And then some people get shitty going, well, if you were just going to run it off your page, why did I sign up to your emails? I could have just gotten it for free anyways. So again, these are all the things that you have to kind of ask yourself when you're setting that challenge up.
Interesting. And I'm assuming during the duration of the challenge, people are asking questions and stuff. Is the idea then that at the end of the challenge, you shut the group down? I mean, what happens to all that content that's in there?
Yep. So then I close that group whenever I run my challenges and I feed them into my primary Facebook community of almost 6,000 members, which is called the Australian Business Collaborative. So they can still, mingle with me. They can still get great quality content, and they can still be around community and promote their business and all of that. But again, in regards to that specifics around the challenge, that closes down until I open up another challenge.
Okay. And then you reopen that same group, or you open up a completely brand new group?
Nope. So I, in the past, have just kept reopening that same group. And the reason why is those members are still in there if they haven't left the group. And they're like, oh my goodness, this is a really great reminder. I'm so glad that I can just join in again. Or this is really great because I can learn something new and tweak my challenge that I've already done, right? So I just keep those going, and then I just keep building on that community, and then again, close it down and filter them into the Australian Business Collaborative.
Yeah, right. Interesting. It's funny. a personal preference of mine, or lack of preference, a hate of mine. I really detest Facebook groups. I just find them. I just find it really difficult to find threads and blah blah blah. And so when I did my challenge, I bucked the trend because I know that a lot of people open Facebook groups, and I just created a special part in my membership for the challenge. And yeah, I think it did work well, but I'm sure a Facebook group is so seamless and easy for people because they're probably on Facebook already, and it comes up in their news feed, etc. And it's free to create one, so I can definitely see the benefits of that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is for my ideal client, they're sitting on Facebook. So for me it's like Facebook, I mean, their phone is in their hand. They're opening up Facebook a million times a day, right? So again, even if they may not go into the group, for example, and even though they may have signed up for it, the reality of it is my branding is still showing up in their feed every single day, multiple touch points, right? So I guess it's that strategic element is even with the Australian Business Collaborative group, there's not a lot of people who are there's a lot of people who are in the background taking in all the information. There's equally that's a very active group. But again, every time something happens by me, that's going into their news feed. So I'm still directly, marketing myself every single time.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of the nuts and bolts of a challenge, and hopefully our listeners can see some applications of how they can apply it to their business. One question that I'm sure some people might be thinking is, well, how did you market such a challenge? Like, how did you market it? How did you get the word out there?
Yep. So there is a variety of ways. Obviously, the unpaid ways was marketing it to my email list, marketing it in my Facebook group, marketing it in a variety of other Facebook groups, having other people who I'm friends with who have similar ideal clients, but we're not competitors. They would share it in their newsletters. And then obviously just constantly still sharing it on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So those were all the organic ways that we marketed it. We also did test Facebook ads for those, which again worked relatively well. Again, as many of you know, sometimes you just got to find the right algorithm and the way they show things and etc. So yeah, so we also use Facebook paid ads for this particular campaign.
And I guess that's a logical place to really advertise, especially when you're ultimately getting people into a Facebook group. They're not, if they're not on Facebook anyway, they're not going to see your ad, and then they're going to be in the group. So
yes, exactly right.
Cool. Alrighty. So obviously, it was successful for you, and so you were teaching people how they too could use challenges. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, because one of the big problems that a lot of the clients that I work with have is increasing their sales and getting more clients. And so again, a challenge helps to solve those problems because ultimately you're not only building your email list, you're building your credibility so that you can sell to them post the event. But obviously a challenge, I always say when you're looking at setting up your challenge, you want to know what are you offering at the end of that challenge, which that comes in how you're going to increase your sales. So that's again the beauty about a challenge is it actually helps you to increase your sales and get more clients in multiple ways, both immediately after the challenge or long term when they're on your email list. On that particular one, if I go through like my 30 days, 30 ways challenge, my whole purpose of that challenge, running it with my business, Finley and me, was to build my email list. And then on the back end of that, start to sell them my particular products that we had within the store. And so we had on that particular occasion, 1,752 people sign up. A friend of mine, again, Stevie Dillon, her offer on the back end of hers was for her course. She had 2,500 people sign up. She had 160 people purchase, which equaled $95,000.
Wow.
So her conversion rate on that one was 6.4%. On my Discover how to increase sales and get more clients into my group coaching program, I had only 100, I say only, but this is where it's important. I had 225 people sign up, which is relatively low. However, 10 people purchased from that, making my sales total for that particular challenge at 22,000. My conversion rate was 4%. Yeah. My friends Emma and Carla, who are from the Merrymakers, They had the back end was an offer for their course. They had 510 people sign up, 192 people purchased, and they made $18,000, which was a 37% conversion. They had a lower ticket item. So you can see that again, there's a variety of ways that you can make sales off the back end, and that's the whole point. How to increase your sales and get more clients is challenge marketing allows you to do that.
Yeah, amazing results. What would you say, like if you were to do it again, what were some of your learnings that you would apply if you were doing it again?
Yep. So if I were to do it again, and I will be running another one here shortly, is I won't make it a 5 day. I'll make it a 3 day challenge.
Okay.
Because again, with my ideal client cohort being women in business who are also ultimately moms, they're balancing a lot. And I think 5 days for them is an awful lot to kind of block out and put their headspace to. I also have found that even with running the 30 days, 30-way challenge on how to connect with your child with my first business, Finley and Me, is that 30 days is a long time for anyone to commit to. So one of the things that, again, I would say to you is that when you're looking at a 3 day, 5 day, 7 day, 10 day, etc., the longer your challenge is, you just need to know that you're going to have an equally proportionate people kind of filter off, right? Because
Yeah.
it just becomes life gets in the way. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that they don't like you or they don't like what you're doing. It's just life gets in the way. So what I would do for the next time is I would definitely shorten my challenge to a 3 day challenge.
Interesting. And then I guess it's about then selecting something actionable that they can achieve in 3 days, which,
Exactly right. So I still believe that I can still run the exact same challenge on how to increase sales and get more clients, but I will chunk together two of the learning topics every day versus doing one learning topic a day because they're really not that hard to do, right?
okay.
So that's how I will spin it on that one. But again, if you're doing something complex like how to do a retargeting campaign or whatever, you might have to, do you know what I mean? Because it's quite techy, it might be new to them, their brain has to work extra hard that maybe you do need the 5 days. So it just goes back to what are you teaching and what is your ideal client? How long are they going to stick around for?
Okay. So that's one thing that you would change, that you make it shorter. Is there anything else that you would change or otherwise?
Listen, I think on our last round, our copy that we had for our ads could have been a bit tighter. I don't necessarily know that it, do you know what I mean, hit the ideal client and their pain points the way that I probably would have liked to have. So again, for this next round is again, I'm going to just test some new copy and see again what works best.
What about making it evergreen, like not having a start and an end date? What are your thoughts on that?
Yep. So I actually have an evergreen webinar, and I think it's a great way as part of a funnel. Setting it up can be a bit tedious to say the least.
But I mean an evergreen challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it would be the same thing, whether or not you evergreen a webinar, evergreen a challenge, absolutely. My only downfall, and this is what I would also say, is even with a webinar is a one-off. Do you mean? I think it's very hard to convert someone off of our cold traffic off of a one instance. When I'm running a challenge, again, you could evergreen it, but remember, you're not getting that level of human connection because you're not going to obviously have a Facebook group that you're sending them to because you're not going to be in that every day. You're just letting them kind of do the course content. So I think the disadvantage of evergreening a challenge is that there's that lack of human connectiveness, and some people need that in order to sustain and or build upon that credibility, authority, and trust.
Yeah, interesting.
But I would say test.
Test.
Like just because I'm saying that doesn't mean that that's what is the end all and be all. Test, and test some more. But it comes down to a numbers game. Anything we do is numbers. So, Denise Duffield Thomas in her latest book, Chillpreneur, she's a good friend of mine now. And we talked, at lunch one day about it's numbers. She converts at 1%. So she needs 100 people to get on her challenge or 100 people to get on the webinar, 100 people to go through her funnel in order to make one sale. So if you have 1,000 people, you're going to get 10 sales. So, again, you need to really know your numbers for your industry and understand how many people do you need to get through, whether or not it's evergreen or whether or not it's a webinar, however, you really need to go, what are your numbers and what does that conversion look like for you?
Yeah. I personally am a really big fan of challenges, and I think that they, as you've said, they're a great way for people to know, like, and trust you and get to know you in a really like micro commitment kind of way. Like you're not asking them to, like 3 days. Like I can get some help for 3 days, and that's not asking me to marry someone.
Yeah, totally. And I also think, with challenges, if I go back to that human to human kind of marketing perspective, is that conversation equals conversion. And so whenever you have an opportunity to have really rich and juicy conversations via email and then in a Facebook group and then teach to them via video, is you're creating conversations. And it's through those conversations that people start to get to know you, like you, trust you, and the conversions will happen. And another quote that I really like is that I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So when you're in a Facebook group and you're delivering a challenge and you're saying like, hey, Alana, how are you today? How are the kids? What have you been up to? And you take time to really get to know those people, not just about your challenge, but just in general. And you make them have those feels, they might not buy from you right away, but they're going to stick around and get to know you longer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to talk about. Is there something that you think that I have not asked you that I should have?
No, I think that pretty much, covers it. And, for those that are looking at, challenge marketing, or if you're looking at ways to, get from stock, from stock to unstock and to get some clarity and strategy, feel free to connect with me over on my Facebook community, the Australian Business Collaborative. Don't freak out because it's not just Australians that are in there. It's just the name of the group. Or again, you can head to my podcast, which is Business and Life Conversations with Angela Henderson. And would love to connect.
That's awesome. Well, that saves me asking the question of how do people find you, because we've covered that. And for those of our listeners who want to do my 7-day retargeting challenge, you can go to, what is the URL? greenarrowdigital.com/retargeting-challenge. And yes, it is an evergreen challenge. It is not a live one. We did run it live at one point. So, Angela, thank you so much for coming on today's episode. It's been a blast and a long time coming. So I'm glad to have finally connected with you. And thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks so much for listening to the Teach Traffic podcast. For more information on each of these episodes and handy PDFs that you can download, head on over to teachtraffic.com.